Hey there, everyone! Welcome back to the AniMonolith recap series for the light novel That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. Picking up right after the War Council in Tempest, the story shifts to the Imperial capital, where Emperor Rudra has just woken up. Not because he was bored with politics, but because his body, worn out from countless reincarnations, couldn't keep up anymore. At his side is none other than the Empire's mysterious marshal, the Crimson-Scorched Dragon Velgrind, elder sister of Veldora and one of the world's 4 true dragons. Velgrind gives a quick briefing. Despite Godra's objections, the Empire will proceed with the invasion. Rudra isn't surprised. He knows Godra too well. The old sage is right. No matter how advanced, the Empire's weapons are still no match for a true dragon. But this war isn't just about conquest. It's about a game. A game Rudra started 2,000 years ago with his eternal rival, Guy Crimson. The rules were simple. Whoever unites the world first wins. Each of them would use their forces, monsters and magians for Guy, humans for Rudra, as pieces in a massive board game with the entire world as their stage. The game ends when one side runs out of pieces or the world is destroyed, whichever comes first. Over centuries, they've changed many pawns, but 2 have remained constant. Velgrind on Rudra's side and Velzard on Guy's. These 2 true dragons are the ultimate aces. But neither Guy nor Rudra wants the world to burn, so both have agreed to certain rules to keep things somewhat in check. Still, there are wildcards, Veldora, the other true dragon, and the primordial demons. These beings don't care about peace or conquest. They exist only to bring chaos. Blanc in the east, Violet in the west, and Jeanne keeping Leon under constant pressure. They're powerful, immortal, and unpredictable. Fighting them head-on would be suicide. Negotiation is the safer play. Back to Rudra's game. While Guy consolidated power in the west through the Demon Lord Council, Rudra steadily took control of the east. But then came the rise of Luminism, a unifying religion in the Western nations. With the backing of powerful heroes like Granbull and Cronoa, the west became impenetrable, and the game hit a stalemate. Until now, Granbull is dead. Lumina's true identity as a Demon Lord has been exposed. Roy Valentine is gone. The influence of Luminism is crumbling. And finally, after centuries of waiting, Rudra's ultimate trump card, the skill Armageddon, summoning the angelic army, is ready for use. This skill is terrifying, but comes with strict activation conditions and a long cooldown. The Empire has stayed dormant for years, just waiting for this moment. Velgrind believes her brother Veldora will definitely show up to crash the party, but oddly enough, she hasn't sensed the chaotic magical storms he once unleashed. That means he's not back to full power. That's the Empire's chance. If Veldora appears, Velgrind will engage him directly to stall him long enough for Rudra to use Regalia Dominion, a skill that lets him take control of Veldora entirely. If that works, Rudra will command the most dangerous piece on the board. With all that lined up, Velgrind and Rudra are confident that the Empire will crush Tempest. That demon lord dared to bribe my foolish brother and deceive my precious niece. I'll punish him properly, Velgrind declares with a smirk. Back in the throne room, Rudra admits this war is the climax of his battle with Guy. But Velgrind is still worried. Lately, Rudra has been sleeping less and seems weaker. Unlike Godra, who reincarnated as a child and grew up slowly, Rudra always reincarnated as a near adult to maintain his power and memory. Otherwise, he'd fall behind in the race. That convenience, however, has a cost. His soul is wearing down. The sheer strain of maintaining his ultimate skill is tearing him apart. He could pass on his power to an heir, but then the skill would be locked away until the heir matured, wasting precious time. So, Rudra refuses. He's betting everything on this final push. Velgrind fears he won't last, but Rudra just smiles arrogantly. Don't worry, I won't fall, not until I've conquered the world. Moved by his unwavering ambition, Velgrind steals her resolve. Then let them come. Those who stand in your way will die in peace. I'll show them mercy, through flame. That night, the 2 continued talking late into the evening, and the next morning, the largest military force in the Empire's history began its march toward the Jura Forest. The story shifts back to Tempest. A month has passed since the last War Council, and a tense silence hangs over the nation, the calm before the storm. Well, everyone's tense except for Ramirez and Veldora, who are still napping and goofing off like it's vacation season. Using intel gathered by Sway, Moss, and the surveillance spell, Argus, Rimuru learns that the Empire's tank division has slowed down and established camps roughly 30 kilometers outside the Dwarven capital. The Empire's main infantry force has done the same, setting up their command posts 30 kilometers from Rimuru City. Despite this, both Tempest and the Dwarven Kingdom remain motionless. The citizens of the in-town have already evacuated safely. Meanwhile, Gobta, Testarossa, Gabiru, and Ultima lead a force of 15,000 troops into Dwarven territory. Unlike the serious wartime preparations on the Dwarves' end, Tempest's army is practically chilling. Camped inside the walls, Gobta and the others are enjoying a makeshift picnic. Testarossa and Ultima sip tea under a parasol. Gobta and Gabiru sit on the ground, snacking on grilled meat prepared by Zonda, Ultima's loyal subordinate who hunted, cooked, and served it himself. As they joke and chat, with Gobta doing his usual teasing the primordials routine, Rimuru suddenly contacts Testarossa via telepathy net. He had just wrapped up a final discussion with King Gazelle to settle tactical roles. Tempest will lead the vanguard while the dwarves maintain a neutral stance, focusing on defense. On Gazelle's advice, Rimuru agrees to send a diplomatic envoy to negotiate with the Empire before declaring war. If the Empire ignores the envoy, then Tempest will have the justification to strike first. As Rimuru lays out this plan, Testarossa kneels in reverence, listening intently. And of course, you guessed it, she volunteers on the spot to be the envoy. If war can be avoided, great. If not, she'll clean up the trash. Gobta and Testarossa are ordered to move immediately. At the same time, Rimuru dispatches Ranga to assist via teleportation. He knows it's risky, but he can't let the Empire's arrogance go unanswered. It's time they learned just what Tempest is capable of. With that, Rimuru begins preparations to evacuate civilians into the labyrinth once war breaks out. Facing the Empire's tank division with its overwhelming destructive power, sheer numbers meant little. That's why Benimaru proposed a precise opening move. Let Gobta lead the charge. The elite 100-member Goblin Rider unit, famous for their speed and mobility, would be the vanguard. Benimaru believed they were perfectly suited for the first strike. Using their agility to stay out of direct fire, they'd engage in hit-and-run tactics to test the waters. It wasn't about winning right away, it was about collecting intel on the enemy's actual strength. If things went well, the others would then join the fight. But for now, Gobta's riders were the test case. This wasn't recklessness. Benimaru had calculated the risk carefully. With intel from Rimuru's Arguses and Raphael's analysis of the enemy's tanks, likely based on otherworlder tech, they determined the tanks used a combination of high-caliber cannons and machine guns. While dangerous, they weren't invincible. As long as Gobta's team kept moving unpredictably and avoided direct hits, they'd stand a real chance. And just in case things went sideways, everyone was prepped to retreat using Shadow Step. Benimaru's logic was cold but solid. Sacrificing more troops just to gauge enemy firepower would be wasteful. This way, a small unit could gather data and survive. Still, Rimuru felt uneasy. Even though the plan made sense, sending his friends into danger never sat right. But this was war, and Rimuru had to admit, Benimaru was right. A show of strength was necessary, and hesitation could cost them everything. Of course, Rimuru had one last safety net. If things got bad, the Third Corps would be on standby to teleport and support. Hopefully, they wouldn't need it. On the other side of the battlefield, Lieutenant General Goster, commander of the Magic Tank Division, stood proudly atop his command vehicle, basking in the thrill of conquest. Ever since his division began its advance, not a single obstacle had appeared. That led him to believe this campaign would be an easy one, his moment of glory. What will the world say when I crush the undefeatable Dwarven Kingdom? I'll surpass Calgurio and become the Empire's next hero, Gaster dreamed. Armed with his unique skill, Musician, Gaster could manipulate sound waves, both for battlefield command and destruction. He could issue pinpoint orders across chaos, or even use vibrations to rupture enemy cells. It was thanks to this skill that he sensed something strange. About 100 individuals were approaching from roughly 10 kilometers away. "Fools walking straight into our range," he sneered. He immediately ordered the tanks to load magic artillery and prepare to fire the moment the enemy entered range. But just then, a large beast emerged from the forest, a massive wolf, 5 meters tall. Gaster recognized it from intelligence reports. Ranga, the so-called pet of the demon lord Rimuru. Ranga calmly approached, stopping 10 meters from Gaster's vehicle. At that moment, a silver-haired woman dismounted from Ranga's back. Her name was Testarossa, and she introduced herself as a messenger of demon lord Rimuru. She calmly demanded to know what the Empire was doing wandering through the forest uninvited. Then, with a flick of her hand, she traced a glowing line of flame across the ground and declared, "If you cross this line, you'll be annihilated." Without waiting for a response, Testarossa turned her back on them and began walking away. Her demeanor was relaxed, almost disinterested. Gaster was enraged. He sensed she was dangerous, but her cold arrogance infuriated him. With a snarl, he activated his unique skill and secretly issued orders. "Shoot that impertinent woman in the head, then commence firing at once with the 20 tanks that turned around in the frontmost row. Show off the power of the Empire to the monsters lurking in the forest." A silent sniper round shot through the air, 3 times faster than sound. It was aimed squarely at Testarossa's head, but before it could strike her, she turned around. With a delicate motion, she stopped the bullet with a single finger, plucked it from the air, and tossed it aside as if swatting a fly. "I presume this to be your answer. Very well, it is a very satisfactory reply. Let us fight fair and square." After saying that, Testarossa joined Ranga without turning around again. She left the place like nothing had happened. The battle had begun. Gaster was stunned, but his fury outweighed his fear. Only he and the sniper had understood what had just happened. The rest of his troops were still unaware. And so, to maintain his pride and authority, Gaster shouted, "Do not be fooled! Commence the attack! For the glory of the Empire!" And with that, the tanks surged forward, crossing the flame-drawn boundary without hesitation, triggering the war Rimuru had hoped to avoid. Following the pre-established strategy, the citizens of Tempest were swiftly evacuated into the labyrinth. In just a short time, the entire town had emptied without a trace. Not long after, Benimaru suddenly reported a suspicious intruder had infiltrated Tempest. Rimuru, slightly worried, immediately ordered Sue's Dark Shadow unit to handle the situation. Back on the battlefield in the Jura region, Gobta and Gabaru began arranging their battle formations after receiving instructions from Benimaru on how to activate the unique skill Generalissimo. The Green Numbers was tasked with circling around the enemy lines and launching a surprise attack aimed directly at the heart of the tank battalion. It was a smart tactic, using Jura's dense greenery as cover to stay hidden until the right moment. Given that tanks were far more vulnerable in close combat, this plan made sense. Meanwhile, Gabaru's aerial cavalry launched their assault from above, while Gobta's Goblin Riders advanced from underground. Both divisions specialized in speed and evasiveness, giving Rimuru confidence they could dodge even direct tank fire. That said, since the true destructive power of the tanks was still unknown, Rimuru also emphasized the importance of maintaining a safe distance. Right then, Raphael interrupted with an urgent update. It seemed the tanks had already detected the Goblin Riders' movements. Alarmed, Rimuru glanced at Benimaru, who remained calm and composed. As expected, Benimaru had already predicted this possibility. His ability to remain unfazed under pressure was something Rimuru deeply respected, and perhaps even envied. It was the mark of a true commander, something Rimuru hadn't yet fully mastered. At that moment, the tanks opened fire. 21 shells flew through the air toward Gobta's unit. Without hesitation, Gobta activated shadow movement, pulling all his comrades into the shadows just in time. Then came the impact. The shells slammed into the earth like a meteor shower, devastating everything in their path. According to Raphael's analysis, the shells were powerful enough to destroy the Dwarven Kingdom's gates on contact, or kill even an A-ranked dragon. Anyone within a 5-meter blast radius would suffer severe injuries, and anyone C-rank or below would die instantly. After hearing that, Rimuru wasn't sure if these were tanks or some kind of walking disasters. Thankfully, the Goblin Riders had escaped without a scratch. They had responded to Benimaru's order in the blink of an eye and used Shadow Step to retreat. A brief thought crossed Rimuru's mind. Was Testarossa safe? But then he smiled wryly. Of course she was. Something like this wouldn't even faze a primordial. With the Goblin Riders temporarily stalled, Benimaru swiftly switched tactics. He ordered Gabil's aerial cavalry to launch an attack, drawing the tank's attention and creating an opening for the Green Numbers and Gobta's unit to strike at the enemy's center. It was a feint operation designed to buy time for a deep assault. But this time, Gobta wasn't sneaking in. He was charging straight through. The color drained from his green face at the order, but the fear didn't last long. Gobta had grown significantly ever since becoming a corps commander. Shaking off his nerves, he quickly synchronized with Ranga and surged forward. At that moment, the Empire's 2,000 tanks split into 2 formations to launch a counter-offensive. Within minutes, the battlefield exploded with thunderous cannon fire. The Imperial infantry guarding the tanks were picked off one by Gobta's wolf cavalry, and soon his forces had broken through and reached the tanks. In the skies above, Gabriel was putting on an aerial masterclass, dodging gunfire with uncanny finesse. Then came a massive explosion. One tank had been taken down. The cause? Kirby had deployed a special bomb, a crystal embedded with fire element chaos magic. Designed specifically to destroy tanks, Rimuru had dubbed it the Flare Bomb. The operation was proceeding smoothly, and the entire control room lit up with cautious optimism. However, this was only the beginning. Gobta's unit had merely broken through the tank division's outer defenses. The real challenge lay in reaching the core of the formation. As the Imperial infantry scrambled to respond, they were no match for the speed and coordination of Gobta and Testarossa. The two forces carved through the enemy lines with precision. It was a promising outcome. But Benimaru remained stone-faced. He knew better than to celebrate too early, because the Empire was just about to begin its counterattack. Stay tuned for the next development in tomorrow's video. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.